Black though. Let's go ahead and open it up. And it's basically what we would expect here. So we'll take off the inside cover and you can see the overall display. There isn't a whole lot of difference between this model and the previous generation, but for the most part, the slight change here is on the keyboard with the function key where they've moved it around a little bit as far as where the fonts are. And this is an M5 chip with a 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, and it has neural accelerators for the GPU. It has 153 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth this time, up from 120 gigabytes before, and it's got a 2 times faster SSD and now offers up to 4 terabytes of storage as an option. So we'll take a look at speed and things like that in a moment, but let's go ahead and get it set up. So I have an M4 MacBook Air that we can compare it with just to see how much different it is. So let me move the box out of the way here. And we're going to transfer everything from this one to this one. We'll just have them set up identical in every way. And it says select your country or region, United States. We'll tap continue or click continue. And it says, how do you want to transfer your information? From a Mac, Time Machine, or startup disk. So we'll select from a Mac. We'll click continue. Then we have accessibility options if you need them. And now we select our Wi-Fi. So you'll see it says software 26. A software update is available for this Mac. This Mac will be updated to macOS 26.0.1. So we'll click continue. I'll get this downloaded and set up, and then we'll continue once it's installed. The update installed, it rebooted, and now it's saying select your country or region. We'll click continue, and it says, how do you want to transfer your information again? So again, we'll click continue. We have accessibility options. Then we'll select Wi-Fi again. Now it's telling us about data and privacy. Again, we'll click continue. So now at this stage, now it wants to transfer data. We need to put this one into Migration Assistant. So we'll go ahead and open it up. We'll tap or click continue here, put in our password. It will set up Migration Assistant on the MacBook Air, and we'll just transfer everything over. So we'll give it just a second here. Now it says, how do you want to transfer your information from a Mac, Time Machine? In this case, we want to transfer to another Mac, and we'll click continue. It says connect AC power. I think we're good for now. And now it says discoverable. So what we'll do is we'll plug in a Thunderbolt 5 cable. We'll plug it in over here. There we go. And you'll see it shows up on my MacBook Pro. So we'll click on that, click continue. Then we have to put in the number over here or verify it anyway. And it says looking for application. So on this device, it's going to take a second, and then we'll continue on the MacBook Pro. So now it's asking me which information to transfer. We'll just select it all. We'll set a password. Once the password's set, we'll click continue. Then we'll agree here. I've read the software agreement, or you have to agree, and now it's transferring via Thunderbolt. So again, we'll give it a few minutes to transfer. It probably shouldn't take too long as they're both only 512 gigabytes total. So we should be able to get a pretty fast transfer speed, and we'll see what the speeds are of the SSD in a little bit. The transfer completed, it rebooted, and we should be good to go now. So on the other one, the MacBook Air, you'll see here where it says migration completed. So we'll wait for a few minutes for everything to reboot and update, and then we'll take a look at what we've got. So now it says migration complete. We'll click done, and now we're at the main screen. Let me go ahead and log in. It says update Mac automatically. We'll click continue. Again, we're going through accessibility and data and privacy, which is odd. Now it wants me to sign into my Apple account, so it didn't move that over automatically. Now we'll agree here with this, terms and conditions. Now it's asking if I want to share analytics. I'll just click continue. We can set up screen time later, set up Apple Intelligence, choose notification summaries, which I do like. And then we'll click continue for Siri, click continue again. We'll set up that a little bit later. Now it's asking me to set up Touch ID. I wondered if it was going to ask, so we'll go ahead and get that set up here quickly. Doesn't take too long. And do it again from a few different angles here. There we are. It says Touch ID is ready. And we're still waiting here. We'll click continue, and then we can use Apple Pay now or set up later, and then we can choose the look, light, auto, or dark. So we'll go ahead and just set it up to auto right now, and we'll click continue. So it's saying welcome. We'll give it a second here. And I don't believe we have any new wallpaper, but we'll check that in a moment. We have to put in our password for Find My Mac, and you'll see everything's set up by default. Now, I thought it was going to set it up the same here, so maybe it's completing. We'll give it a few moments. Now, for whatever reason, it didn't copy everything over. It doesn't look identical, and not all of the same apps are here, so all of that copying maybe just didn't work properly. I've never had that happen, so I've installed everything manually, and let's go ahead and first take a look at what we have for wallpaper or appearance. Under wallpaper, I don't imagine we'll have much new. We just have the Tahoe wallpaper, of course, that's installed by default from macOS Tahoe, and if we scroll down, there's nothing new for the MacBook. Apple hasn't updated it for a while for some reason, and we basically have all of the same ones we had before. So that's a bit disappointing. We have Pro Black, which looks great, but they really need an update for this. It really helps differentiate the two. Now let me go ahead and wait for a couple things to download, and we'll go ahead and get started testing the overall speed between M4 and M5. And I thought maybe it'd be a good way to test since we have an M4 Air versus an M5 Pro and just see how it holds up. Now, before we get started, this is an M4 MacBook Air with 24 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. Here we have the M5 with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. So we technically have a little bit more RAM here, but let's see how it handles it. First, let's take a look at the disk speed test. I've got disk speed test open, and we again have 512 on both of them, and the overall speed on the Pro is quite fast. 6,387 megabytes per second write speed, 6,478 megabytes per second read speed. It's only half of that, 3,017 read speed on the Air and 4,179 write speed on the Air. So definitely a difference there. Apple says it is 2 times faster than before, so basically it's the same speed as what we got in previous MacBook Pros with larger storage. Now if we close this out here, let's get out of this. Now let's go ahead and run the Geekbench scores for just the CPU to start with. Benchmarks completed, and you can see here with the M5, it scored 4,091 for single core compared to 3,706. Multi-core is 17,378 compared to 15,237. So definitely a little improvement there. We'll test the GPU next, so let's go ahead and take a look at that, and we'll run both here. GPU benchmarks completed with 47,355 compared to 36,226. So pretty good overall. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Metal benchmarks as well. And this time around with Metal, it scored 75,359 compared to 54,909. Now let's take a look at benchmarks with AI. So now you'll see Geekbench AI. Let's go ahead and run the AI benchmarks. The first benchmarks for CPU with AI completed at 5,268 for single precision score, 8,645 for half precision score, and quantized score is 6,862. You'll see it's a little bit higher than each one of these. Let's go ahead and close this for now and take a look at GPU for the same thing. The AI scores completed for Geekbench with GPU this time around, and there's a significant difference. Single precision score is 13,283. Half precision score is more than double what we have with the M4 at 24,724. And quantized score, again, is more than double at 23,648. Now let's go ahead and run one more Geekbench score or test with AI using the Neural Engine. We have neural accelerators this time around, so let's see what we get here. So we'll go ahead and run this. Running all these benchmarks back to back, you would think that the overall processors would get super hot, but these are fairly cool to the touch still. So let's go ahead and take a look with the FLIR thermal camera. So you'll see here on the MacBook Pro, at the hottest point, we're at about 39 degrees Celsius. And on the MacBook Air, if we look around here, we're at about 33 degrees Celsius, so actually a little bit cooler than the MacBook Pro, even though this has fans. Benchmarks again completed with the Neural Engine, and for single precision score, 5,241, half precision score is 43,315, and quantized score is 60,777. So it's very fast overall with Neural and GPU. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more thing now. Now we're in Final Cut Pro. We have the exact same video on both Macs, and we'll export it in 4K. This is the tvOS is out what's new video. So let's go ahead and see how fast that is, and I'll use my iPhone as a timer. Export's completed, and this is 7 minutes and 48 seconds long. It took 6 minutes and 39 seconds to export this in HEVC 10-bit. The M4 actually took 7 minutes and 54 seconds. Not too bad considering there's no fans here at all. So more than a minute, but definitely capable to do the exact same thing. Now, I did notice that I must have True Tone turned on this device, so it looks a little bit different. So let's go ahead and turn off True Tone so that we can have actual white be white as I see it instead of paper white. And let's go ahead and get out of this and try one more test. Now, this is Transcriptionist. This will actually take the video that I just created, the tvOS 26 is out what's new video, and then transcribe it into captions. So let's go ahead and start that. And again, we'll see how long it takes. So we'll start, and usually doesn't take too long, but let's go ahead and see what we've got here. There we go. It's starting to transcribe here on the MacBook Pro. And based on what we have here, we're done at about 11 seconds on the MacBook Pro compared to 15 seconds on the MacBook Air. So there's definitely a difference here between both of them. A few seconds, but of course, if this was a couple hours long, that could make a difference. Now, some people will say, why aren't you comparing the MacBook Pro to the M4 MacBook Pro? Well, I only have a Max version of that, so I didn't really want to compare it. And I think many people are probably considering the MacBook Air compared to the MacBook Pro. And the Air is fully capable. Of course, it's not as powerful, but it's definitely capable. Now, as far as the design, it's identical to what we had in the previous generation. We have, of course, our Thunderbolt ports, our MagSafe, as well as our headphone jack. And then on the other side, of course, SD card slot, again, another Thunderbolt port and HDMI. Exactly the same as what we had before, so that part of it's great.